The Art of Flow.
Welcome to The Art of Flow, a podcast that explores connecting with your body, mind, and soul via movement arts and creative exploration. Through conversations with movement artists, circus performers, flow artists, and fire dancers. My name is Morgan Dalgano, and I'm the creator and host of the podcast, a florets enthusiast and a life coach. Today we'll be talking with Vojta Stolbenko about the florets community and what he loves about it. We will also chat about the future of florets, performing with fire dancing, new teaching platforms, and the intersection of florets with technological advances. Vojta is a flow artist, filmmaker, musician, and circus artist based in Prague. Professionally performing since 2008, Vojta has performed worldwide, both alone and in collaboration with groups such as Fusion Arts, Phoenix Fire Dancers, SuperCho Company, and the Mandalights company, to name a few. Vojta has completed several artist and teaching residencies and creates visually stunning flow and performance videos for himself and clients that evoke emotion and highlights movement in a dynamic way. He is a dance instructor for PoiRetreat.com and has run 14 retreats. He's also the main organizer of Roztoč Fest, which is a circus festival in Prague, entering its 9th year. When he's not teaching, performing, or filming, he drums and creates music. You can connect with Vojta online by visiting his websites, which are in the show notes below, or connecting with him on Patreon, Instagram, or Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hello.
How did you get into florets and fire dancing?
Well, kind of like, everybody else. I saw it somewhere and I got totally impressed by it. But I was like 13 years old at that time. And I was kind of doing a lot of different things. And when I saw that, it somehow looked as a connection of all the different things that I was doing. And it felt like that, I feel like I was moving in a circle and I didn't have the center of the circle of all the things that I liked. And that that looked like a connection of all the things I like. So it kind of changed my life in that moment. It was interesting because as a 13 years old, you don't always know when something is like, oh, this is what I want to do for my life. But I feel like I kind of knew it. My parents didn't like the idea when I came home with like balls and strings. It's like, look, this, you're going to see me doing this a lot now. But that was the case kind of. I'm like a super ADHD kind of person, So I was like that kind of kid. I was too hyperactive, like all over the place, like always playing with sticks and whatever objects, like kind of, not focused, like, hard to control. And I was really into like theater and stuff. So I was like, actually before, or like the place where I discovered flow arts was a festival where I did I was directing and acting in like a school theater show. And there were some older students that did some LED poi. And I was thinking like, wow, that's super cool. And that day I wanted to learn that, but I had no poi. So I made first poi made of earphones, like 2 pairs of earphones that I totally destroyed that day.
That's so interesting that you got to discover poi when you were really young, when you were just becoming a teenager and you saw other students performing.
Yeah, but I think there is that was the moment when I discovered it. But the real discovery, that's when I think really realized how, or why I want to get into that, was when I got on internet and typed poi in YouTube. And when I discovered the whole community and all the other poi spinners. And for a few months, I just had no idea what poi is out there. Also, I was 13, internet wasn't that accessible. There were not so many things on YouTube back then. But when I discovered the community and sort of the vibe that I felt from that scene, it really dragged me into it. And I was always tempted, by exotic places and nature and some sort of mystical things a little bit. So the impression I had from what I saw on the internet was oh, there are these people, traveling the world, being in exotic places, mystical places of temples of Bali, and it's so alternative and different, and like I was kind of bored with that like football community of my school or whatever. Like wanted to escape into something different where I feel more like something more unique, or just I always like to be a little bit different than everybody else. So I guess it like kind of helped me to find something that's like my own. And I started with two friends, and we were like kind of three guys, like really into flow arts, practicing in the school breaks, and still do that.
When did it change from kind of you mentioned how you had a lot of interest, and this kind of was an intersection, this like became the center node of those interests. When did it become something beyond a interest, hobby, passion, and turn into I perform, I do performance?
Actually, that was only 2 years later, because like when I was like 14, I recorded my first video and like put it on YouTube. You know, I felt like that's the thing you have to do when you do poi. You have to make YouTube videos. And I basically like tried to do whatever I saw the other, like the famous poi spinners doing. You know, I was really inspired by Nick Woolsey. And I saw Yuta and Ronan and all these people that are now my friends, which is amazing, were like, you know, the big heroes when I was like still 14, you know. And but so I like made a few videos, and then I also like met more people that were already doing poi. And then when I was 15, I got asked to join like the Got Talent show with this Czech group called Pyrotera. And like that's when I actually performed for like the first time. Was in the National Theatre of Czech Republic, which years ago burned. And we did the fire show. It was kind of funny. Like that was the only time that they allowed to have a fire show there. So suddenly I stepped into this kind of like little bit commercial world, because it was this, you know, Czech's Got Talent show, and it's not really a world which I would like to return so much, like this kind of commercial TV show business. But it was definitely a really big experience for me. And then I kind of stayed with that group, and I was performing for a few years with them. That's how my like performance career started. And I was 15, 16.
Because you were a part of that more commercial world, and you've been a part of the more artistic, self-decided projects within the Florets world, you have a lot of performance experience. I'm wondering what you think the difference is between Florets, circus, and juggling.
That's a very complicated question. And I think it really depends on the country and the culture. I think in Europe, it's different than in like United States, for instance, or parts of Asia. Because when you mention circus in Europe has like upgraded into something official enough that you can even study it and have a degree from circus. So in eyes of many people, it would be something way more serious and official than flow art, for instance, right? And it's something like when you compare like a classical music and jazz, like in the 40s, right? Today, jazz is also official. And I actually studied jazz. I can confirm because I have a paper that says I'm a jazz musician. But like when it started, it was like, you know, this kind of underground thing. And then it became official enough so you can even study that, and it's really accepted. So in Europe, there is a little bit more visible difference between circus artists and flow artists.
I think there is a difference definitely between Europe and the US. In the US, we have less circus training and schools, and there's not really funding for circus as much as there is in Europe. So in Europe, circus is seen as a more established profession.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that's like, we're talking about how it's looked at, but there are obviously big differences between these two art forms, not just based on the community and the types of people that do one or another, but about like what it actually is. I think like in new circus, you know, like we're talking about new circus that's not with elephants so much anymore, but more like it. There is definitely often like more meaning, or there are these extra layers that in something quite visual like flow arts we often don't have. So, you know, if somebody says like, oh, flow arts is just visual, that's true, and that's all right, right? It's like a difference between dance and theater. Like dance is like more about the movement and the visual side, or like of course, about expression and the inner experience when you dance, and it's like, same for flow art. And you could have dance in theater or in opera or in ballet, and that would be like, I see this dance versus theater as like flow arts versus circus. And yeah, flow arts definitely more about the movement and the inner experience that we have, rather than to, like, not many flow artists try to tell a story with their show or touch something like, something important. A lot of circus shows are often based on some themes that reflect something, either artistic or social or even political or cultural or whatever.
I want to know, so we talk about flow arts and its difference between other arts that it sometimes intersects with or gets compared to, but what is flow for you?
So I think that flow, it's difficult to explain. There are many different ways you could call it. I guess it's just like this kind of state of mind that you have when it's like when you're riding a bike down the hill and you're like, and you're in this kind of like a mindless state of mind where one move evokes another, and you're in this like automated state when your body, based on its skill, based on its skill set, just like mindlessly does things, and you're like responding to these impulses that are coming from your own movement. I would say, like, for me, if I dance with poi and like a good music or something, then like I do something and that guides me to the next thing, and it's happening quite itself if you feel the flow. And I think this is something like also connected to the fact that we spin things. So there is more flow in a circular motion than there is in the motion that's just going up and down. So, and most of flow arts are spinning around something, like it's all like quite circle based, unlike juggling. So you definitely do have like flow in juggling too, but then it's more like, I mean, I think in flow arts, flow is like that kind of combination of spinning something where you feel that kind of flow of the rotation of something, and you like lose yourself into that. But I think it only works when you have the right skill set. So like if you want to ride a bike and enjoy, that kind of like thing and flow of riding a bike.
That zone when you're really in that moment. Yeah,
but you still need to have a really good skill of riding a bike, right? So it goes hand to hand with like, practicing. It's not only about like, flowing freely and that's it. Well, it's like a way how to utilize the skills we have in a way that reflects our personal style of movement, and trying to achieve maybe some sort of mindless state in which we can just enjoy ourselves. I think for a lot of people like me or you, like ADHD people, we're often distracted, and I sometimes find it hard to focus on things. And it's really like when I spin poi or do some flow arts, when I feel like I'm really meditating, like I'd say like maybe flow arts can be also meditation for like hyperactive people. Like I'm not good with like regular meditation when I would just sit and that's it. If I'm on the top of a volcano, I can do that watching a sunrise. But for me, flow arts is a meditation in which I experience that kind of clarity and mindless state, like often people try to reach in meditation.
Yes, a very active movement meditation. That is also something that requires a certain amount of knowledge. So you can activate, you can keep your brain engaged at a certain level enough that it can then let go and go into a more of a thoughtless zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we were talking about, circus being more widely accepted in Europe and flow arts is kind of like the underground scene. Do you think flow arts are going to become a widely accepted art form and move away from being looked at as the underground hippie scene? Based on your conversations or your interactions with community members around the world, do you think people want this? If that's where we're headed?
It's a good question if we actually want that. If you're someone trying to make money with flow arts, then you might want that just to yeah, you want to have more people following your work or inviting you to festivals, and it would definitely like it would open doors to many more people that could then, you know, like make their living based on this beautiful art form, which I think is great. It would create job opportunities for artists. So from this point of view, I think it's great. However, I do enjoy the intimacy of our community. That, like, for instance, I come from the music scene a little bit too. And, you know, music, there's just so many musicians that the fact that you meet another musician doesn't automatically mean that you become friends just like that. With flow art, it's kind of still happening, right? Like, that's awesome. Like, you travel somewhere, you meet someone who does flow art, or particularly poi, for instance, and that someone is like, oh, you do poi, that's great. Like, only the fact that someone knows it exists is and reason enough to connect. And this is what I've been enjoying about this scene the most, I guess. And thanks to that, I feel like traveling is a whole another experience when you're part of such a community. You can arrive anywhere and meet like-minded people that dedicate their time to these balls and strings too. And it's a great way how to connect. So I do enjoy the intimacy of our scene. However, I'd like to see more work opportunities for people to really dedicate their lives to this, because then it would bring the overall level higher too. Like, I feel like in flow arts, like the skill level, I don't know how to like really, you can't really compare it, you know, but like, it's not that far like it will be in 10 years, right? Like in Circus, you have incredible things. Obviously, you have incredible things in flow arts too, but the older an art form becomes, the more advanced it's you know, high levels become, or how to say, like, simply, yeah.
And we can see that too, just in watching the trajectory of flow arts in the past, say 10 years.
Absolutely,
you can kind of see how much the skill levels have been expanding. And so if we continue that trajectory forward.
Yeah, and I think it's happening. It's definitely happening. That's not something we can affect. It's awesome that it's happening. What was like the most amazing trick 10 years ago today becomes the basics, which a 15 years old kid can do. And, you know, it makes me think like, you know, like we have a lot to catch up in the future. Catching with the younger generations and, yeah, seeing the overall level growing.
I guess the question is whether are we actively trying to encourage it to accelerate or move in the direction of mainstreaming versus.
Yes, but that's something that's happening too. And yeah, like I said, I think it would be good just to have more opportunities for artists to fully do that, and more people that are like full-time flow artists or performers, that brings the overall level higher. But at the same time, it's then losing its intimacy, and it's kind of like you will have a lot of people that are really different in some way. Like, so far, it's amazing that people who you meet in flow arts community, there are more things you have in common than only flow arts. Often it's like-minded people that like the same things, have similar taste of music, similar opinions, and I do enjoy like the open-mindedness of everybody, and it just feels like a community that has a lot to share, not only with tricks but also a lot of wisdom and experiences. Yeah, the more it opens to mainstream, the wider range of people there will be. And I think it's kind of happening, like with all the tools to create effects that we've developed, like all the pixel boy and stuff, you know, like there are people that are getting involved into flow arts from the entertainment industry, thanks to all these amazing things that you can now do with all the LED technology and etc. And you can already see that it's kind of like mixing up, like that's a little bit different world that's getting connected to the flow arts world. But particularly that's amazing because we need more opportunities for performers. So that's great. Also more, like there is more jugglers like kind of accepting flow art as a real prop, like, or like kind of they seeing that there can be amazing things done with flow props as well. So a lot of jugglers are even picking up poi. Maybe they just enjoy juggling fluffy clubs, juggling snakes. But yeah, we can also see like the connection being made between jugglers and flow artists, which is awesome because juggling has made it like the overall level of juggling is probably higher than flow arts because it's a much older art form. So there's a lot we can learn from the jugglers. It's not only on like the technical level, but also on the discipline level, right? Like when the art form has more higher level, it takes more time to get there. So when you talk to a juggler that's like on a really high level, that person probably practices 7 hours a day. We can ask a question like how many artists are practicing 7 hours a day. So like if we really want to be serious about this art form, we can get inspired by something like juggling and their discipline and how to bring this art form to the same level.
We can see the possibilities for the growth of our art form by looking to the other art forms that are kind of like cousins.
Yeah, we're like the younger cousin, younger brother or sister. And we can look up to our older brother and say, hey, wow, you grow up so high. Let me learn from your lessons and follow.
We're talking also about expanding opportunity. And I'm curious, I think this challenge comes up in Europe and also in parts of the United States, but why is there a lack of fire performers when there's so many fire dancers? And same for flow artist performers. Now we have LED, but there's a lot of like people who are into flow arts.
Yeah, but not enough people. I don't know how this is in the United States. In Europe, definitely, I'm often like involved in conversations about, okay, there are gigs and there's actually not enough fire performers. And yet there are many fire dancers who would actually like to perform, but it's kind of really hard to find people that would have all the different parts or the full skill set of what a performer needs to have in order for you to be interested in hiring them. And like, first of all, I think like flow arts, a lot of flow artists are like, when it comes on flow arts on stage, you want to see a lot of movement and expression and some sort of like stage presence often, which is not necessarily something that we automatically learn to do when we do flow arts. It's not only about the style of movement, but like not everyone has the right mindset to want to perform and feels comfortable in that. And it just takes a lot of like different little things that make you kind of hireable. So if someone is considering would like to be hired like a professional fire dancer or start their own business, I think there are all these little things that you should focus on that make you more hireable, which would be, for instance, working with more than one prop, right? Like often you need to use more than one prop on stage in all the shows. So I know many really, really amazing poi spinners, but they do just poi, So that's already a problem because you need someone who can do 3-4 different acts or solos in a show. And if they don't exist, that's a problem. You need to have some certain musical experience when it comes to being able to count and so you can pull together some choreographies quickly and adapt, and you need to actually have props, and often props aren't cheap, and it's so there's all these little things, you need to, I don't know, speak English, have a car, you need to, have a passport, you need to so there are not that many people that when it comes to a lot of shows that you could think of sometimes, or maybe we just don't know enough. Other things you should be able to edit your own music quickly, right? You should have a basic understanding of stage lights and all those little things. It's difficult to find people that have all those things in some way that you could just really rely on them being able to, be flexible and be part of shows when it often requires sort of improvisation and fixing problems and so on. So I would definitely encourage people to get into all these little things and think about it a little bit. And there are definitely a lot of job opportunities for a lot of performers out there. It just doesn't always take only knowing the tricks.
So if you want to become a performer or run your own business, go ahead and start learning. You want to have multiple tricks. You want to have some understanding of how to cut music. You want to have a little bit of understanding about lighting or what space you're performing in. ways to go to gigs and communicate with those you're doing gigs for. And those are the skill sets to sink your time and energy into.
I mean, if you have to choose between a person that does crazy tricks that nobody ever did before and a dancer who just does pretty basic tricks, but looks graceful and clean, you definitely choose the dancer for the show than the crazy spinner, right? So this is why a lot of and this is where the community is mixed too, because I know a lot of big groups that prefer to work with rhythmic gymnasts and dancers and rather teach them a few tricks than teaching spinners how to move on stage and how to count and all these little things. So yeah, so I think it's good to focus on from the beginning if you're actually aiming this direction, focusing on a movement, being able to do some really basic, a cartwheel, or something like that. And just focus on your body movement a lot. It's not only about the prop.
Thank you so much. And what have been some of your favorite past performances and why?
It's hard to say. I work with different groups and companies and individuals, and I love each company and individual for different reasons. And what I like the most is the variety, the overall variety of all these different shows. And I enjoy doing one show of one kind and then having a different experience next week. And that's great to alternate those types of shows. But I really enjoy shows that have kind of high skill level, but also some sort of artistic dimension of expression, and there is something else that it tells a story. Like a theater tells a story maybe very specifically, right? But we can tell a story through movement too, and through just the visual performance. So some groups like Mandalights in France, for instance, I really enjoy performing with them because I feel like their shows can make you cry at some point. And yeah, I love performing with with Srikanta Barefoot, with my colleague also, and just he's so good that when you would on stage with this guy, you just know hell yeah, the thing is rolling. And yeah, there are a lot of.
So the performances that either directly tell a story or they evoke an emotion. So they don't have to specifically have a theme or a story, but the movement itself and the song itself and the style itself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit allergic after doing a lot of those kind of shows to when things are cheesy. So I don't like too much when cheesy shows with a lot of epic music and this cool this and this that. I mean, this is partially where some circus artists would say this is not a real art form because we're just presenting different effects. So obviously, I'm very happy when I can be part of a show that is not about this. Rather, it's a combination of beautiful. Yeah, because all the effects can be used in a very discreet way as well, right? It's not like you can't use pyrotechnics because they're cheesy. There are ways how you can use all these effects as pyrotechnics in a nice, polished way that's not distracting and it's not cheesy. So, yeah. However, for a lot of clients, it's the cheesy show that will get sold. So, of course, you just find yourself doing a lot of these things because you need to pay the bills.
What questions do you ask yourself when you come up with a performance? Are there guiding questions?
Yeah, it really depends what your target is, I guess there's always a dual target. One target should definitely be, how do I sell this show, and is the show something that actually can be performed, and where do I want to perform it? And you're gonna have to maybe sacrifice a bit of your ideas or ambitions to just make it kind of sellable. And the second question is, what do I want to share with that? Of course, you need to be motivated to create an act. You don't just do it because, I mean, I guess you'll have more fun if you follow some sort of idea and you're trying to express something with it, whatever it is. Maybe you just want to impress your girlfriend, but there is or you want to tell a story about how to save the planet or whatever. But there is the second, why do I do what I do, kind of playing a different level.
That makes sense. The two aspects. So if you are performing for for the public. You're performing for money. There is a component in here there you have to think, will this be seen? Will this be something that can go out there and be received? And also, what will make me excited about working on this? What is the core concept that to keep alive and have these two parts meet? But if you do a lot of film and video, both recording yourself and for external clients, in addition to the Florets.
Yes.
What's your perspective about using video as a medium itself, rather than a tool for wider distribution, and rather than the stage?
Well, again, there are two different layers, just like in creating a performance. And for me, in this particular case, the layers are often like even more away, far from each other. If you're creating a video to promote yourself, then the question should be like, what's the target with this video, right? But I particularly enjoy creating artistic videos that don't have any target of, making any money or whatsoever. I just really enjoy expressing things through music and videos. And yeah, I guess there is some, like this. I mean, I love films and videography, and it's a tool how you can again express something, some idea, something that cannot be really put in words, can be put in a video, just like same reason why people paint or compose music. It's expression, and it's a way how to show some amazing skills. So I love filming amazing people doing amazing things, and then making something visually pleasing and something that just makes you have a good time watching it. And yeah, it's just like my hobby. I mean, in these days it's increasingly more difficult to create artistic videos and having actually someone watching them, because we live in a world of Instagram and short scrolling forever kind of that's what's happening these days. So I also have a bit less motivation of creating this kind of content that I've used to create, like all traveling videos, shooting nature and things. And I really enjoy like those kind of slow things when you have time to absorb something. And I feel like it's very difficult today when we're overwhelmed by content. So, but still I'm having a lot of fun doing that, and I don't intend to stop. But it's getting more difficult to create long artistic videos that, when it's hard to express a lot through a 1-minute video, right? There's just not enough time, and there's too much distraction on the social media. So
that makes sense. So the way that our attention spans as a collective are shortening due to social media sites, and it makes it harder to create and distribute and have people enjoy the longer form art forms. Video is one way that Florets has combined with technology in the more modern day internet age. What's your perspective on integrating Florets with other technological innovations, such as in the world of virtual reality and NFTs?
I think like within the new technology that arises, such as virtual reality and NFTs and all this kind of stuff, it would be great to see Florets and Poi like find its place in it, as it's quite a new art form, and these are quite new technologies, so they could be combined, I imagine, particularly for virtual reality. Anything that's visual works well in virtual reality, right? And I see like the learning potential in virtual reality as one of the main things, as I do a lot of tutorials and currently working on a new tutorial platform. I'd love to, it is my plan to try to get into this a little bit. Just imagine, you're in virtual reality and you see your hands do the 3D weave, and you just follow that. And, those sensors will tell you if you're doing it right or not. And maybe it will turn green when you do it right. This could accelerate the learning process like 100 times. And plus you could, try a lot of things, like such as it's fun to practice Poi in front of a mirror. What would it be like if you see an image of yourself doing the trick with fire, or like showing you like the possibilities of transitions. And I see, like, I haven't spent much time thinking about it, but it's a seed that's been planted in my mind to explore this a little bit. Haven't started yet, but I'd love to yeah. And also the same with like digital art that today is a thing, especially in the US, right? Like the NFTs and stuff. And I mean, when you look at what are NFTs, a lot of it is like computer generated art, right? Like an algorithm that spits out something based on how it's programmed. So when you look at that, this is kind of what we do with our hands too, right? We're like program our hands, put it in the framework of certain geometry, like the picture you have behind you, and we do visual art with it. So I've always been really into light painting and all the geometry of poi. I think it's really amazing. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe this is a way how you could create art and yeah, tokens that could be even sold and could be opportunity for people to make money with it, and just yeah, like bring this amazingness of poi geometry into the world out there and motivate people to work on it and create and be creative.
There's some super exciting opportunities there because as far as I know, I've never seen a poi or florets related NFT yet. And virtual reality wise, like it took me, I think 2-3 weeks to learn a 3-beat weave. I was convinced that my hand-eye coordination just wasn't in existence. It was frustrating. And a part of it was just the person who was teaching me continued to teach me in the way that made sense for them, but didn't make sense for me. But a VR guide through it would have had me have it in a day.
Yeah, and it could be fun too. It wouldn't be just a tool. It would be like a virtual reality, a place you escape, not to just play games that don't enrich you anyway, but a tool to improve our hand independence and cognitive skills. Like it's proven scientifically that juggling and even poi are really beneficial to your brain and to your like even mental health. So I see the potential of different learning methods, how to improve your hand independence and explore things that develop your skill of movement and hand independence.
Are you willing to share more on your thoughts of like your dreams or vision for future projects involving poi learning, resources, NFTs? What's on your agenda?
Yeah, with NFTs, there isn't much except for the fact that I know that no one ever created any poi-related NFT, and I would like to be the one that do that. But I'm still in the phase of research, and so there's not much I can share about that. It's just like I'm interested. I'm on the project. I'd like to make that happen. And when it comes to learning platforms, yes, thanks to COVID, I've just like many other artists, I totally panicked when it started. I was like, oh my God, no work, retreats canceled, workshops canceled, shows canceled, time to go online. And I'm really happy I did that. So I started my online tutorials in 2020. And I now have like over 100 of tutorials that I made since then, because I committed myself to create like a new tutorial every week for my Patreon channel. That has become a source of poi knowledge for many people, to who I'm very thankful for following me and learning from there. So now I have like all these tutorials, yet Patreon is not the best platform for learning, to be honest. So I'm working on a new platform with my friend Nana, with who we also run the poiretreat.com platform. And this should be like, it's catered to learning with poi. So we're trying to like put all the different tools that will make it easy to orientate in all the content, and creating your own like kind of learning plan of different playlists. It allows you to share your own content and get feedback. And also I've just recently recorded over 35 beginners tutorials, which has been my plan for many years to really sit down and think about what's the best teaching methods to learn to spin poi, to motivate people and help them to get started. So this is something that this new platform, which is soon going to be launched, should basically have all the content for people from the very, very beginning, explaining the most fundamental things about poi and movement of your arms and all that into like all the advanced things that I do and that I enjoy sharing. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of content there, more than anyone can possibly watch. You would need many many years to go through all that.
That's so exciting. So listeners, take a look. Hopefully it is already out and you can check the link below. If not, save that link in the show notes below, go to it, and there'll be content on this learning platform for you to learn from.
And I hope to create kind of a community this way too, because like maybe that was your next question, but I feel like, that's really a big part of this too. It's not only, okay, I'm at home and doing tricks and like I'm discovering this inner universe in which I can, escape to and do poi, it becomes this like kind of, different dimension of shapes and things that you can escape and it's yours. It's like kind of like a computer game, but slightly different. But it's also a community, right? So I'd like this platform to also help people to meet each other, to interact, and to experience what I experience when I travel, like meeting new people everywhere, making new friends, and building connections and friendships across the world. So that's another dimension of this platform that it should also serve. And I'm doing my best to help people to connect and to make new friends and enjoy the fruits of our community.
That would be great, because a big part of spinning and continuing to stay involved in spinning florets is be able to exchange those ideas with people who are just as passionate, and to be able to connect with people you would otherwise maybe not have connected with other than the shared interests bringing you together.
Yes, exactly.
And where is all this learning content going? Is it like along this unknown pathway of the contemporary poi journey? What direction do you think that is taking us?
Like the future of poi, you're asking?
Yes.
That's a big question.
Are we just going to all juggle?
Are we just do squares with our poi? Is the box anti-spin going to take over the diamond anti-spin? I don't know. Are we going to do 5 poi? Like that's going to be the basic? I don't know. But I mean, I've been doing poi for 14 years and I've seen like the different turns it took, and often it feels like it's going away from circles and flow and all these things, and then it slowly comes back. But definitely we're now in the time when people are exploring a lot of new things. I think that's partially because of like the whole connection with juggling and getting more and more inspired, like making our poi more and more static, that allows us to do more and more like club-like tricks and finding inspiration in other forms of juggling, as well as I guess they need to come up with something new. As I don't know if it's also because of Instagram a little bit, but I feel like a lot of people are motivated to come up with something new and show it to others, not just to get fame for that, but it's also exciting to discover something new. So we see a lot of experimental things, and I think that at some point, like, because I feel like there's so much unexplored in the like kind of old-fashioned poi spinning style, which I enjoy myself the most, and in which I think the flow is really hidden. The good old circles and anti-spins and in-spins and planes and reels, and hype loops and isolations and all these unts. So yeah, I feel like we're not done with that yet. We're not going to just manipulate and juggle forever, I guess, because I see how much is unexplored. Yeah. We're in a period when the tree of poi is just getting bigger and bigger, and there are more and more branches. That's really exciting. And me, myself, I love to get into all the different, to climb on the different branches too. But I see the circles and all the things with timing and directions and the shapes and the reels, that kind of classical poi spinning style, as the fundamental for all that. So I think it is something that I encourage people to work on that and get into that, rather than just like jump right into juggling 3 poi or something. I've heard people saying like, oh, I think I don't need that because it's kind of like, it's boring. I'm just going to go straight into 4 poi and like do all that stuff. It's like, you're about to miss something beautiful, like still for me, despite enjoying like all the crazy stuff and exploring new things and yeah, like riding on the wave of excitement when I discover something new, it's still really that kind of classical poi spinning style that I enjoy the most, that gives me this sense of like, you know, flow and mindless state of mind. So, and there is a lot to be explored. Only after like 14 years and discovering new things and understanding a lot of quite basic things in a new way that I constantly find in like entertaining and exciting.
So if people want to really enjoy themselves and fully sink into exploring poi, rather than focusing on trick to trick or shiny new thing to shiny new thing, going back to those basics, going back to the foundation could be a really rich spot to explore.
Absolutely. And it's the way to connect, you know, those crazy things together then. It's like, you know, you might want to like be able to do a lot of variations and combinations of things. So it's through these basic things where you can really achieve a freedom of movement. So if you're familiar and comfortable with all the basic timings and directions, and you have no limits when it comes to those basic spinning tricks, that then serves as a connection between all the hot things that you discover here and there, and that allows you to actually merge them into something that's kind of connected and yeah, solid, you know.
Do you have a personal daily practice or artistic practice that increases your inspiration around these different poi concepts or flow arts concepts?
Inspiration, you know, you always get into some sort of area of movement, of area of tricks that excites you at the moment. So I do enjoy both like this kind of free form exploration, put on a good music and dance kind of practice, as well as that kind of like repetitive practice of, you know, you just practice and move until you get it, which is I've especially discovered since I started doing more juggling and tosses. I also do a lot of like triple staff and things that are more about tossing than with poi. And that's like a simple, like when you're learning something in which you can drop, that's a simple indicator that you've like screwed up, right? So that's then easy, like you just practice until you don't drop. And that whole progress of like getting into slowly, like, you know, getting more familiar with a move or a trick, and then slowly getting there. It might take more than a year. That tricks, you know, that just take like 2 or 3 years. And it's like, yeah, like starting to read a new book, you know you're going to spend time with it, and you know the journey might be long, but once you get there, it's just so satisfying. And I think this is good. Like this kind of like a lot of flow artists really enjoy the free form training, and me too. Like if you asked me like 8 years ago, I would say I don't really practice like, you know, 4 hours a day or one trick. You know, I like the flow. I need to feel the flow with the music and everything. That's good, but it's not sustainable. Like eventually you find yourself, yeah, trying to push towards your goals, and you have visions of moves you want to learn. You know, it might take you 2 or 3 years, and you're not always in the mood to just like flow freely, but you can always find yourself in the mood to just practice. And there is a sort of a meditation hidden there too, of just like, you know, like juggling kind of approach of like just practice until you get it, and not just with like juggling patterns, but whatever pattern. So I do enjoy like both, and I think currently my practicing is somewhere near like 25% of the like free flow, free form exploration time, and 75% of like, okay, I want to nail this down. And yeah, I'm happy I discovered like this sort of flow in the repetitiveness too. Even though you're just doing the same thing over and over, it's a good way how to relax also. And it's just fun to then observe the fruits of your patience.
It's interesting to discover that especially for folks who really like the new and really need to be engaged in a lot of variety of things, that doing something over and over can get you into a flow state. Sometimes it can be an access point for relaxation.
Yeah, and you know, it's just like really satisfying then when you're flowing freely and dancing or performing or whatever, and you know you have the skill set. It's like the different, you know, tools hidden in your pockets, and just pulling them out, and it works. Like luckily, muscle memory and your own memory, they're quite separated. And like your hands, once they learn some move, even though you might even forget that you ever knew it in the first place, your hands still remember that. It's like you will never forget how to ride a bike, right? So it's just really satisfying then to be able to just pull those tricks out and do them. And that allows you to really enjoy the free flow too, because you have a wide range of moves. It's not possible to remember all of them, but then you're free to, respond to different impulses, to music or whatever inspiration you feel at the moment. And you have this like, all these different tricks.
I'm wondering, I asked this of all guests on the show, but what impact do you most want to have on the world?
Yeah, I think it's like, because I think flow arts offer this kind of, dimension of there's this whole universe that you can discover within yourself. It's sort of a universe of movement and tricks that are yours. It's something you can escape to anytime you want. It's always there for you when you feel down. It's like a thing that should always cheer you up. I remember some crisis in my life, like breakups or whatsoever. And the only thing I could really do at that moment would be to practice. Like I could do nothing but that. That's when I'm connected with myself and I feel like this is what I do. This is where I get energy and power and clarity of mind. So I wish that more people discover this.
Yeah. Part of the impact you want to have in the world is sharing this personal treasure box, this anchor that people could use.
Like facilitating the creation of this connection with this treasure box, as you say. And like I think this is really connected also with this whole, like doing what you like, following your dreams kind of, and discovering your talent and exploring the world. I think that's what for me it's like that. Like traveling is a really big part of like what I enjoy about flow arts. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I wish I could travel there and do that and meet these people. It's like, so you can just have to step out and do it. So I think we can. Not all of us can be the best in anything we want, right? It's not like I can wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to become like the best pianist in the world. But it's more about like, so in flow arts, I encourage people to just enjoy the process of learning and exploring, and don't think about it as something that you have to succeed at. You've succeeded from the very first day you started doing that. And there is no need for competition. There are nobody is going to judge you. Like, do it for yourself. That's maybe what I'm trying to say,
I love that perspective. It's such a welcome reminder that this is a personal practice. It can be more, it can be shared, it can be performance, but at its heart, do it for you. Now, what projects are you excited about right now?
Yeah, for sure, there's a new platform, vojta.com. That's a long-term project. And I'm very excited about like the fruits of all the patience and sustainability that I'm discovering in many different projects. Because I feel like, with whatever thing you start doing in your life, there comes the test after some time. It's easy to like start things when you feel the excitement, you feel the pull, and you're like, I want to do this, and you start doing that. But then comes the test of like, can you keep doing that? And I've always been like that kind of initiator. I could motivate people to like, start doing that and do that. And I really enjoy that myself. So what I really enjoy is when I realize that things have become sustainable and they can last and I can rely on it. So right now, I feel like with different projects in my life from all sorts of directions, like they are getting into this, they're passing this test, such as with the retreats. We've just done like a really big event in Guatemala, like a retreat with 8 different instructors, and was like very ambitious. And when I was planning that, people I would share this information with, they would say, that's kind of crazy, that's too expensive, that's too risky, that's just too much. And I just felt like we're ready, like because I happen to have an awesome friend and a kind of a business partner who's working with me on these retreats, and she's just a super talented person that knows about everything. And that's another thing that I feel like our connection is now pretty sustainable. We've done 14 retreats, and therefore when we have an idea of like, let's do this crazy retreat, we have the right tools to make that happen. And this event that we just did, which was much bigger than anything we did before, was a proof that this is true. So I feel like the whole retreat project is quite sustainable. Also, like this festival I organize in Prague with my friends and awesome community
Roztoč,
there.
right? It's entering its
Roztoč,
ninth year.
Yeah, now we're entering our 9th year, and that's awesome. I know a lot of festivals that, you know, that were awesome, but they never lasted long enough. Like after several years, there comes the test of, you know, are people motivated? Like often you would just have to become very commercial to keep that project sustainable, because when your excitement fades off, you maybe have to replace it by money or something like that, which we haven't done. And it seems to be like getting into, discovering more sustainability, because I also play in a band, right? Which is called Tigru. And that's like my second life, like do a lot of music in Czech Republic with my band. And there's been a lot of tests how I'm able to combine that world with the flow arts world, because I'm kind of like full-time, you know, involved into flow arts as a performer and boy instructor and everything. And I'm trying to like do music at the same time with a bunch of motivated musicians, and we have a lot of concerts that I'm missing, and it's kind of complicated. And luckily that seems to be working somehow as well. And I feel like, you know, there is a system that can work.
So right now there's a lot of projects going on in different art forms, but the big thing is that they are becoming sustainable in the long term, and the pieces are fitting together as a whole.
Exactly. Yeah, I think sustainability is especially for ADHD people like myself. It's like it's easy for us sometimes to start something, but then to finish it and then to make it something that lasts and is sustainable. That's the whole other thing. And I know that this is a problem for myself. So I'm just very happy to observe when that happens, and I'm trying to understand, how to make that happen even more.
I'm nodding vigorously over here. I understand. Thank you so much, Vojta, for joining us today. It's been wonderful to hear about your current projects, your past projects, your perspective about florets and about creating art. If any of you listeners want to get in contact with Vojta or see more of what he's currently up to, please do check those show notes below. And that's how you can get those contact information and see what's going on in his teaching world and also in the film world. There are 2 different websites down there, so don't forget to check both. Peace out for now.
Peace, and thank you everyone for listening. Wish you a lot of fun on your flow arts or whatever other journey you're at.
The Art of Flow is a free public resource for creators, teachers, and supporters of the arts who are interested in florets and fire dancing. It is available for mainstream distribution on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, and at theartofflowpodcast.com. If you believe in a show that provides inspiration for artists and conversations on the creative process, please support the podcast on Patreon to keep it going. As a supporter, you can earn early access full-length interviews, submit questions for interviewees, be mentioned in an episode, and get a behind-the-scenes look at how the podcast is made. That's The Art of Flow if you're searching for it online. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram and Facebook to receive shorter clips of episodes, updates, and notifications when new episodes are released.